Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the ring, where I fight for my life and maybe a decent IndyCar win. I digress, though. This week, we will be talking not only about one racing series, not only about two racing series, but three whole racing series. We are officially back in swing. Cars are back in track. I'm hoping my life will finally take an upwards turn. Without greater ado, the gang is back together.
I actually kind of love that. So.
I kind of do too. It really sums up this podcast as a whole.
To kick things off this week, in case you live under a rock, it is officially March, which means it is Women's History Month. Slay, pop off, ladies, girly pops. A new segment that we kind of want to start introducing to the pod is recognizing a woman in motorsport. This week, we would love to talk a little bit about Laura Winter. If you aren't familiar with her, she is one of the presenters with F1 TV and has been working with them since about 2019. And I think the best way to start this off is kind of cycling back to some words that she said last year, specifically in Saudi, not only for International Women's Day, but circling around a time where there was a lot of weird stuff going on. The allegations about Christian Horner had come out and the misconduct with a female employee at Red Bull. Not only that, but in countries like Saudi Arabia, there was a discussion a little bit about how female employees were essentially confined to their hotel rooms when they returned back from work, and they were not given opportunities for equal access to hotel facilities like the gym or the pool. And so she had made a statement on the air, and I think it's amazing that, F1 TV and the other broadcasters supported her in this. But if you're on TikTok, you probably know it fairly well, where she says, "To all the women and girls in motorsport, it seems like a good time to remind you we are here to stay and we are right where we belong." So, very significant moment. Not a lot of people may know this about Laura Winter, but she herself is a survivor of domestic violence. And I use the word survivor specifically because she was a victim of it, but I think survivor really embodies the strength that she has moving forward from that. She has a long history of working in sports in general, but started her motorsport career working 4 rounds of the World Rally Cross Championship in 2019, and then later debuted with F1 at the 2019 Belgian Grand Prix.
Winter, the woman you are.
She's just so amazing. And also, too, I always found myself really drawn to her because she is eloquent when she talks. She's intelligent when she talks. And sometimes a lot of the presenters add a lot of fluff that means nothing, but everything she says always has a point to it. And I respect that.
Yeah.
And you know what?
She does a great job.
Shocker, shocker, she still remains funny, because women can do it all.
She is, is that a triple threat? Smart, eloquent, funny.
Pretty, cool, talented.
I think it's
I'm running out of fingers to count.
Very telling, the genuineness behind her, excuse me if I said that incorrectly, because she is able to stay very authentic to herself just from, watching her and watching her interviews and watching her interact with people, and has still progressed so far, has done amazing interviews, and has been able to remain very firm in her stance and not sort of been waywardly pushed by other people in the industry, and just been able to still thrive in her career. Not that there hasn't been challenges, not that she hasn't overcome many, many things, but that she's still able. It gives you hope if that is a career that you want to pursue, or just women in careers in general, that you can stay authentic to yourself and your values and your morals and how you interact with people in genuine ways and still progress and thrive in that career of chosen choice.
Work. Other little tidbits to toss in while talking about specifically women in motorsport. Laura Winter, the impact that she has had directly on the sport itself. For everyone who likes to say that women don't belong in motorsport, women don't belong interested in sports at all, it's not for us, and we should just get out. Female fans, specifically ages 16 to 24, are the fastest growing demographic in Formula One, and 41% of fans to date are female. And these are like actual statistics. This is from Forbes that did, the data and collected the information. Women make a massive impact on the success of Formula One. Who spends all the money? Women. Who's paying all the checks? Women. So when you say that there's no place for women in Formula One or women in motorsports, what you're really saying is that you don't want to see the sport succeed.
And also, I mean, speaking statistically, economies are built by women because traditionally, from years and years ago, and even unfortunately still true today, women are the ones who are purchasing things for the household. It's not men. So their choices directly influence how the market thrives or diminishes. So now that we not only have mostly equal buying power, but also are the fastest growing demographic in this sport, we have direct control over that economy, regardless of whether people like it or not. So really supporting and welcoming those fans is so integral to the long-term survival and influence that Formula One and motorsports will have over the greater population is something that people need to wake up and recognize.
All right, so kind of circling back to what Caley said at the beginning, we are fully back. We had all of the major series that we talk about on this podcast were back on track. And the first one that we're going to cover is Formula One. And we had testing this past week. So there were 3 days of testing in Bahrain. And I think Julia has some more to talk about actual testing because I really don't care about testing. I wrote down 4 bullet points. I said it doesn't really mean anything. And then I kind of talked about, so day 1, I think it was Lando had the fastest time. Day 2, Carlos had the fastest time, and he had the fastest time overall.
That's the only thing I took away.
Across all 3 days. Across all 3 days.
And nothing else.
Exactly. That's literally all I took away. And then George Russell had the fastest time on day 3, and then I put Williams looking like it could be fast. Please, fingers crossed. I'm about to I don't know, make
Caley
some potion.
Manifested it.
Caley did manifest it.
He's gonna take that cinder block and put it on the podium.
Yeah. So if he does, he owes it all to Caley.
Facts.
Carlos, please be my win.
Yes, I took a little bit more in terms of notes. Some things that are more like current events, some things that I just thought are funny, like why was testing such an absolute chaotic mess? The power outage day 1. Also, for everyone who is blaming Oscar and saying that the power outage was his fault, are you crazy? What evidence do you have? 2, the glass pane that fell onto the track and shattered everywhere. And then them having to red flag because for some reason there was a bus on the circuit. Great start to the season. I really do hope that the chaos continues. Other little tidbits, Liam Lawson off to a rocky start with his spin on day 1. George being the first person this season to swear on camera at testing during an interview. Talking about Carlos a little bit, if you didn't see, Carlos was appointed the head of the Grand Prix Drivers Association, so he will be working, I guess, closely with George, who we know is absolutely involved with that. I don't know if you guys saw the graphics. You can tell that they totally made those themselves because the quality of them is whack.
The fact that they just use I feel like George probably texted Carlos send me a pic of yourself, and he took a selfie and sent it because it's not even him in his uniform. It's him in a black hoodie that's cropped, and they probably made it on Canva.
I can also guarantee you that George gave no context to that. He was like, hey, send me a selfie. And Carlos, being the delight he is, was not thinking that this is going to be posted and broadcasted across the greater internet.
Right.
He's just oh.
I just imagine George going on Google and typing in Carlos signs and then being which one does he look worse than I do? That one.
No, that man has a Pinterest account. It religiously saves pictures of himself to an account. That's a fake name, of course, in a private folder that's I look hot. And then photos he uses for everyone else.
Right. GR fan 63.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We know it's you. Max gives the finger to the Williams garage while driving through the pit lane on the final day of testing. No cause for concern. Apparently he was flipping off one of his friends there. Important rumor alert, though. rumor has it Susie Wolf may be throwing her hat in the ring to make a bid for the role of the FIA president. I think we can all unanimously agree, please, for the love of God, please, please, please get rid of Mohammed bin Sulayem. We hate you. You're terrible.
Disrespectfully so.
Yeah, like actually all disrespect. So. And people are like actually really stoked about this, to the extent that like Damon Hill publicly said like, I support this and agree with it. And I think that's major when you have not only a former champion but a current commentator on the sport backing you. That's like Beyonce backing Kamala Harris. Now if Sebastian Vettel could get on board with this, I think would be really good. Lewis is looking happy at Ferrari. I know we're all very pleased with that. He was the first driver to get a lap time sub 1 minute 30 seconds and then was later beaten by Carlos, unfortunately. So the Time magazine article that came out, and also to the Drive to Survive trailer that was released this week in response to Toto Wolff saying that Lewis Hamilton has a shelf life. I think we've said this in a previous episode. Literally, go kick rocks. Toto Wolff, you don't know what you're talking about. You hired Kimi Antonelli, who is not prepared to be in the sport, and I just don't think that you're the best judge of excellence. But Lewis's response was basically along the lines of, don't compare me to anybody else. I am the first and the only Black driver in this sport. I have been through a lot. There is no other driver in history like me. Winning is my number one priority. And I think in terms of a response to the haters, that you really can't get better than that. He like mic dropped on Toto Wolff.
And then walked out. Like stage exit left.
Yeah, other than that, maybe Williams will do good. Hopefully Williams will do good.
Please.
But from everything that I'm kind of hearing, even McLaren said that they think Williams, based on testing alone, could potentially fight for like the top 4, which I think is crazy to hear, especially from the most recent world championship winning team, that even they're like, what's going on? But it seems to be that McLaren are definitely topping so far, with Ferrari a little bit behind them. People are theorizing that McLaren was sandbagging all throughout testing because they continuously kept aborting laps part of the way through. And everyone's saying like, well, this is literally because they couldn't stop the car from being so fast. And they didn't want everyone to know that the car was so fast.
I support that. I'm okay with that. Besides Ferrari, well, no, actually, I want interest. I want drama. I want a 3-way title fight between Ferrari, McLaren, and Williams.
Not Ferrari, McLaren, and
Williams.
That's my goal. That's my.
That would honestly make my whole entire life.
That's my.
So you basically just want a title fight between Carlos and both of his former lovers.
Yes, that's what
between
makes for
him,
good TV.
Lando, and Charles.
Has no one ever watched a K-drama or like a Real Housewives or the Kardashians? Like, where are the broadcasters taking notes? Where is the Bachelor level drama? I need the ex from 2 seasons back that was only kind of a hinted at fling to come in, walk in the studio, mic drop everyone, and take the last rose. That's the level of drama I need. That is the level that I will only be satiated at. Nothing else.
Really do think we're gonna have, I hope to God that we're gonna have like such a close title fight. I really am not confident that Max is going to win like the championship in any way.
I don't think he is, but I don't know who is, but I don't think it's gonna be him.
It's not gonna be like
I hope it's not gonna be him. I love Max, but I don't think he needs 5 in a row.
I also feel like he is content with his 4. This is gonna be his last season. Kelly's gonna pop out the kid and he's gonna be like, peace out, I'm gonna go be dad now.
Yeah.
Packing my bags for
right.
NASCAR.
Or that he'll at least do like a sabbatical or something.
He's gonna pull like a Kimi and an Alonso. He's gonna like retire for a couple years and then like come back
out.
Yeah, he'll go to Aston Martin because Nui's there and Honda will be there. And then maybe finally he'll get to be teammates with Yuki.
He'll do a couple years and then he'll retire for good.
Yeah.
But then he'll probably like start doing WEC or something just for the fun of it.
I think he should come and marshal with us. Like, he should put
Please.
him in the bomber.
Max is a pit lane marshal. Oh my gosh, that would be so. Well,
that's all I have for testing. I don't know if anyone else.
All I can say is I'm excited for Australia because testing literally means nothing until there's the first race, and then
True.
Like I'm so excited to see how it all goes down for the first race.
Let's be honest too. We all know that Australia, like lap 1, turn 1, is anarchy.
It's gonna be awesome.
Year.
I can't wait.
Who's crashing out? Place your bets. Lance
Stroll.
Don't tell Emma. She's gonna be so disappointed.
Jack Doohan, Lance Stroll.
Yeah, because they'll be starting P19 and 20, so they'll just take each other out at the beginning.
I honestly forgot Jack Doohan was even a player on the board.
Same.
I'm starting to feel bad for him though, guys.
I want Franco Colapinto
up for him at his home race.
I don't care.
Not even one billboard.
I'd like to see him walk a mile in my shoes.
Well, it's clearly he's not very popular. They don't like him if they haven't given him a billboard. Get more popular. I don't know what to tell you, buddy.
Well, did you see the thing at the like F175 about like his press conference where the Alpine like press officer had to like step in and tell the journalists, you have to stop asking him about Franco Colapinto. Yeah. It's inappropriate. He's here to talk about him.
Franco.
I know. I love Franco.
I'll even do these hands for Franco.
I know. I was going to do that for him.
I'll give him a FAH hands.
Beautiful.
I think that's
who am I betting? Honestly, I'm gonna pull a wild one out. I'm gonna pull one right out of left field. Can't say Checo because he's gone. I'm gonna say Liam Lawson takes Max out.
That would be. It has to happen at least once.
It's gonna happen at least once this season. But for the season opener, that would be so good.
That's what I'm placing my bets.
Could you?
Once is an accident, twice is on purpose, 3 times it's targeting. I'm going for there's going to be at least 4 in the season. So Max, unfortunately, I love my Maxie. Max Patch, Cabbage Patch, ride or die. But unfortunately, you will not progress very far in the season. I'm calling it now.
It's giving that audio where she's like, watch your back or like watch your mouth. Max the entire season.
But not for me.
Looking out for Liam Lawson. Making sure he's not running into him. Beautiful.
But not for me. That's what Liam Lawson's going to say.
All right. So I think that wraps up all that's going on in the F1 world. Now transitioning to talk about my personal favorite motorsports series, IndyCar.
I thought you were going to say NASCAR for a minute, and I was like...
No, it hasn't quite gotten up there yet. IndyCar, last season, I'm officially an IndyCar #1 fan.
Whoa. I feel like that's a pretty safe... Yeah.
It's fair.
Yeah, it's fair.
IndyCar race in St. Pete this past weekend, and if you didn't know, IndyCar is now partnered with Fox.
Boo.
Which didn't change, well, boo for part of it, but yay for part of it. They kept pretty much the same commentating lineup, so we still have Townsend Bell, we still have James Hinchcliffe. Then our third commentator is Will Buxton, and I think he did a pretty good job for calling his first IndyCar race. I hate the new graphics. I love what Fox has done with all their commercials and like pushing out the visibility and having a bigger budget, and like I know that they really want to grow IndyCar's popularity, but the race, like the in-race graphics, I feel like it made it so much more confusing, and I feel like I now, having watched IndyCar for a couple seasons, normally know what's going on pretty well, but I feel like, especially for someone who's a new fan, and like the whole point of what Fox is doing is trying to bring in new fans, it probably just confused the heck out of people, because, I mean, they only showed like the first half of the leaderboard for like most of the race. I think they barely showed the tires that they were on. So I was like, I don't know if they're running alternates or primary. Like, there wasn't a lot of information given. And what was given didn't
on the
help.
Commentators.
You really, like, I was truly relying on what they were saying, especially with coming to pit stops and like what tire strategy people was on, because tires played a big role in this race, like the tire strategy. And I was like, I don't know what tires these drivers are on, because they've showed it to me once.
It's like when you give your friend the homework and you're like, okay, you can copy it, but you have to make it sound different. And that's what they did with the NASCAR graphics. Like, they were really like, okay, this is what we do for NASCAR. You can have it, but you have to make it slightly different. IndyCar.
And I guess for NASCAR, you don't need to know what tires they're on, so they didn't have that graphic ready. So that's why we didn't get to know.
I was just confused because, like, when I was watching, I'm like, okay, why am I only seeing the top 10 and then it's not cycling the rest of them?
Yeah, it barely cycled. Like I had to pull up my phone to see the leaderboard the whole time.
Right, because I was playing the whole time. I'm like, where is Pato? What's Pato doing? Give me Pato.
Okay, so back to the race itself. Scotty Mack was on pole. Love him. You can't see what my title says on this, but it says Joseph Newgarden sucks. And then underneath it says SMS, which stands for Scotty Mack Supremacy. So I was really excited about that. I love Scotty Mack. But Colton Herta was the favorite to win this race. And he qualified really well. He started in P2, was set to have a great race, and he had 2 bad pit stops in a row.
Horrible.
Which completely destroyed his day. And it was heartbreaking to watch because I was really hoping he could pull it out of the bag. But yeah, his pit stops it ruined his race. Yeah.
It was giving Sauber.
Yeah, it was so bad. It was so painful. I was like, I can't do this right now. But St. Pete also is known, like how we're talking about for Australia, always pretty much having a crash on lap 1.
Which
it did. It did. I don't really know what the cause of the crash was. Do you know?
Technically, Will Power slammed into the back of Nolan Siegel.
No, because Will Power can never do any wrong.
Well, and I
simply refuse.
Nolan Siegel was in the way of Will Power. Is what happened.
Basically, what it seems like is basically they all were getting brake checked. Let's be honest, going through the corner,
and it's a blind turn too.
Yeah, and it's a blind turn, and I think Will Power basically hits Nolan like pretty dead on in the back, and then it spins Nolan, and then they have further contact and hit the wall, and then it took out. Not
Louis
like took
Foster.
out. Yeah, but it damaged his car too. So that's like 3 people out of the race off the bat.
So what
the only reason I knew it was Nolan Siegel is because I saw that it was the blue McLaren.
Nolan should have been out of the way.
I was like,
Nolan should have
ruined Will Power's race.
I was so bummed. I was like, dang, I like Era McLaren, but I also love Will Power, especially when he's playing the drums.
Love Will Power.
But crazy, though, that was the only caution for the entire race.
I know. I was like, St. Pete in the past has been so hectic. I was expecting a lot more. It was obviously green the rest of the race, and there wasn't that much craziness that happened. I mean, we did have Marcus Armstrong was doing pretty well, and then he had some sort of mechanical issue. Yeah, mechanical issue.
I was thinking about this today, and I was like, he had a lot of mechanical issues last year. And what's the only thing that has stayed the same? Marcus Armstrong. I'm convinced someone is like has his voodoo doll and is like poking at him.
Caley, we know who it is.
We do know who it is.
It's just a bummer because, like, realistically, had he not had a mechanical issue, he easily could have been fighting for, like, a top 5 spot. At one point, he led the race for 3 laps. Granted, it was because people in front of him had to go pit. But
I was impressed with those Meyer-Shank cars because Felix Rosenquist had a killer race, too.
And I was not watching this race in live time because I was on a plane, but I was relying heavily on Lauren and Julia updating me constantly, and I would just get these spasm texts of like, no, Pato, Marcus, no, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like the world is ending, like people have crashed into each other, cars have gone flying, and they're like, no, he's just out due to mechanical issues, or he's at the back of the pack. So it was much less dramatic than I was playing up in my mind, thankfully. Glad there was minimal bloodshed and carnage. Again, odd for St. Pete, but I'm glad none of my favorites were harmed in the making, I guess, of it.
It sucked off the bat, like, for Pato that weekend because he just, like, didn't have a good qualifying. He crashed out early on and is going to be starting, P23. Will Power didn't even have a very good qualifying either. He qualified, P13? And then, too, like, super sucked to see Pato have such a rough weekend when technically he won this race last year because Joseph Newgarden got disqualified because he's a dirty cheater.
Those Penske boys, big old cheaters.
You do still have to give Pato a ton of credit because he recovered from starting P23 all the way up to P11. At one point he was up at P9, but he had to pit one more time. Or no, P6, I think, actually.
Yeah.
And so I think he got an award for it too, that he had the most recovered
biggest
places.
biggest mover
Yeah.
It was
award
12,
that they
12
give out.
positions. And then wasn't it Colton Herta? He lost the most positions. R.I.P.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah.
Poor Colton.
He finished 16th.
I know. It's rough.
My other shout out this week for IndyCar, Kyle Kirkwood and the Chili's car. I love you. I really would like you to sponsor us so I can get unlimited triple dippers.
And the other shouts outs that I have, besides to Alex Palou, because he won the race, good for him, is Rinus VeeKay for coming 9th in a Dale Coyne car. That is really impressive, and props to you. And my favorite, Rossi, he came 10th, so really excited for him.
Yay!
And I was really hoping that Scott Dixon would win in the end, because he has never won at St. Pete, and he has been racing in IndyCar for 22 years, since 2003. And that is one track that he's never won at, and like the closest he's gotten is second. I think he has the most second places ever at St. Pete or something. That may be wrong. I may be making that up. But if it's true, he just added another one to that tally, because he unfortunately came second to Palou, and then he passed Joseph Newgarden.
Such a sleigh overtake on Newgarden in the last lap of the race. You know Joseph was on his radio having a temper tantrum.
You know he was big mad. Because Joseph probably thought that he could win the whole thing.
Oh, absolutely.
It was a great ending to the race.
I was going to say, Kaylee's favorite driver, David Malukas, P13, he beat Fettuccine Alfredo, his own teammate. So that made me really happy. Especially too, since this is his, like, he's in a new team than he was at last year. He's at AJ Foyt now. And so for him to beat out his own teammate, I think is awesome. And get used to it, Fettuccine.
He's got to show who's top dog. I love how we're perpetuating the rumor that David Malukas is my favorite driver into this new season of life. But
he is your favorite driver. Didn't you know that?
Wait, should we change the rumor of who Kaylee's new favorite driver is?
Who's my new favorite driver?
Who should it be? Joseph Newgarden.
Stingray?
Big Joseph Newgarden fan over here.
I was going to say, would you rather us say that you love Santino Ferrucci?
So we've got bad and worse. Or worse and bad.
Santino Ferrucci's #1 fan.
Okay, so actually, I would like to clarify, guys. David Malukas is my favorite driver. Woo! They called me out, and I've come to confess. Yep. Out of all the options I was presented with, David Malukas is my #1 driver.
He's so pooky. We love him.
Yay. But for my endorsements, I'm going to second Lauren, Alex Palou. I mean, he's great for a reason. I'm glad if, again, with the options that we were presented with, he was the winner. Much more palatable than Joseph Newgarden. Scotty Mack, in the way he interacted with his daughter, literally...
So cute. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, congratulations, Scotty Mack.
For having a child.
On your baby.
Yes.
And to your wife, because we know she did most of the work with that.
The way he's just, like, carrying her, like, dabbing, like...
So cute.
He's such a girl dad.
Such a girl dad.
Ugh.
Like, healing my
further my agenda of Scotty Mack supremacy.
And then I'll give props where props are due. Paddle Award raced a great race. Unfortunately, it started at the very back, but, like... Give credit where credit is due. You moved up 12 spaces, boy. Congrats. And that's where the list ends.
And you gifted us a beautiful Instagram post afterward. We love you for that.
I will say,
always.
So, again, I was on a plane, and Julia sends it in our, like, Instagram group chat.
And you can't see the picture,
and I can't
just
see
the
anything.
words.
But all I get, like, I get the notification, and it goes, I can't even remember what it was, but it was, like, Pato in all caps, like, OMG. And I was like, he's done decapitated himself. He's out of racing forever.
No, you were worried that
you thought he hard launched a girlfriend.
I did. Not gonna lie.
She has PTSD from David Malukas.
Also doing that. I
didn't think y'all were gonna expose me like that, but thank you. Thank you so much for exposing me like that. It's fine.
We would have all reacted the same.
We did. We all reacted exactly the same.
I want the people to know it has been a try. Like, this 2 weeks has lasted 2 months in my life outside of This is not what I needed. I did not need another straw to break another camel's back. I'm on the ground. I'm already on the ground. There's nothing left to break. So if that had happened, I would have turned my phone off and just gone off grid. And I've been like, well, nothing left for me to live for.
I will say, I do think we have to go to St. Pete next year.
The FOMO that I had,
for sure.
I'm really glad that I was like hanging out in Nashville, because if I was at home, I would have had to turn my phone off.
I just want to hang out with everybody.
Everyone was having so much fun, and it was warm and sunny, and
the McLaren car launch at sunset. Are you kidding me?
That was so slay.
All right. Any other IndyCar bits and bops?
I don't think so. I think that covers everything St. Pete.
I'm gonna say, next up, Thermal Club. Damn, I gotta wait a whole 2 weeks for race cars. No, actually, just kidding. Drive to Survive comes out this Friday. I'm gonna cry a lot and think about Daniel Ricciardo and Logan.
You're gonna have to recap for me, because I hate that show.
That's fair.
Can I confess?
Dude, last season was bad.
Confess.
I've never watched Drive to Survive. I think
I've watched one season,
half of an episode, and I was like, "Oh, this is interesting. I'll come back."
That was
a few years ago.
I've never seen The Godfather, or I did not like The Godfather.
Or it's like, no, literally, no hate to Drive to Survive, but after this season, I think they need to be done.
Yeah, I mean,
it's gone on for too long at this point.
I go into it because I now have like the outside context where I'm like, I wonder how they're going to manipulate things. Like, who are they going to make the villain this season? Are they going to try and make it look like Max and Lando hate each other? Are they going to try and make it look like Oscar and Lando have infighting at McLaren, which we just know isn't true? And like Lewis leaving Mercedes. But I also have no confidence that that's going to happen, because they literally spent the entire last season talking about Alpine. And Alpine did nothing.
And we've had 7 series, and I feel like 7 is enough. It's a Netflix show. Like, not many Netflix shows have reached 7 seasons. Danny Rick is gone. A lot of people for the past couple seasons.
Will Buxton probably won't be on it anymore, because now he's not doing F1.
And a lot of, like, as the last couple seasons have come out, less and less people are watching it, less and less people are liking it. I think it did a lot of good for the sport and got a lot of people into the sport. But, I mean, the only seasons that I watched of it was, like, during COVID. And then after that, I was like, I'm good. So I think it's run its course. It's done a good thing for the sport. I feel like they should be done with it after.
Yeah, I think the drivers would so agree with you, not having to get followed around anymore.
Yeah.
And then, too, it's like, I would like the teams then to bring back their own, like, little race diary stuff that they had been doing.
Yeah, the McLaren one was so good. I loved that.
And Williams used to do a bunch of them, too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like they don't have the money for it to hire someone out.
I digress. Yeah. Hire me.
For real. My call is they're going to make Daniel Ricciardo the problematic actress who's too much of a busybody and is difficult to work with. And that's why he leaves mid-season. Calling it.
That's crazy.
Your face says otherwise, but I appreciate the support.
Yeah.
NASCAR. You want to talk about NASCAR?
Gentlemen, start your engine.
Honestly, I want.
Well, they say drivers now.
Yeah. We're woke in this household.
Driver.
Did you see that it was Jack Quaid as the Grand Marshal, and then they had Shine down there? I said, what is going on?
And they say Motorsports is not a show. Have they ever watched NASCAR?
There's truly no other spectacle on earth that is NASCAR, and it is it's like blue cheese.
Dude,
like, it is an acquired taste, to say the least.
It panned out, and I was like, why are there dudes in motorcycles in a sphere doing the circles like it's the fire?
Why not?
And then there's like a guy on like a slingshot thing. I'm like, what is happening?
Real racing.
I cannot wait to take you to your first NASCAR race this season, Julia. You will be converted, and it'll change your life. Okay, so NASCAR was at COTA this past weekend, running a road course. They do a couple of those each season, and they ran on a shortened configuration of the track. So basically, they cut off a mile of the track, which was like about turn 7 to 11, and consolidated the track and cut out one of the long straights or two of the long straights because you don't have DRS in NASCAR, and so you don't need those long straights. It's kind of pointless for them, and it makes the racing a little bit boring. So I think that was a great move on NASCAR's part, and the drivers all seem to agree with it too, because also it's more for the fans as well, because you get to see the cars come around more times because the track is shorter. So overall, it was like a win-win for everyone. And in my personal opinion, of all the years they've raced in COTA, this was the best NASCAR at COTA race I've seen. And I really think the track had a lot to do with that. Then they added around turn 13, like a place to do their take on a Joker lap. So instead of having to come all the way back through the pits to do a drive-through penalty, they basically did like a stop and go penalty. So took this slightly longer route, stopped, came to a full stop for like a second, and then started off again. And so I think that was a smart way to do those penalties, and the drivers agreed because it was more of like a punishment that fits the crime versus having your race ruined for something like track limits, which is what happened to Bubba Wallace in stage 1. He had to do his little stop and go, but it just dropped him back a few places instead of completely destroying his race. So I thought that was something smart that they added in as well with this new configuration of COTA.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, for as many qualms as NASCAR has, they do take leaps and bounds very seriously. Like, I think from an outside perspective, the drivers, it feels like the drivers have much more of a voice in the way races are run and when they want their opinions to be taken seriously. But I also think that because there's so many more of them, and because there is power in numbers, that might also have a little bit more of an influence and a sway when it comes to making these greater decisions, if you can really get like a collective together. But where's F1 with their notepad? They should be taking notes like this. Whereas,
I mean, I think it helps that NASCAR has so many races.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have so many races in a calendar that they're like, okay, yeah, we'll try it. And if it doesn't work, we'll change it back.
Yeah. I mean, NASCAR is just so relaxed in comparison to lots of other racing series that there's not as much red tape to change anything with them. Yeah. Whereas with a lot of other series, there's a lot more hoops you have to jump through. With NASCAR, they're like, yeah, we'll make it shorter this time and see how it goes.
They're like,
and too, it's like when you
permanent,
have
we'll change it. Rules aren't set in stone.
So many, like, NASCAR has so many more drivers competing that, like, if you make a change and it kind of screws with points and whatnot, it doesn't have as much of an impact as in F1, where you have a limited amount of races and there is a very limited amount of drivers. So the points allocation is significantly more important. Like, you getting second versus third at a race changes your ability to win a championship immediately.
That is true. I love COTA. It's very biased, but it's my favorite track. And watching cars or especially with series that have rolling starts, go into turn 1 on lap 1 at COTA up the hill is always going to be the most entertaining stupidity ever. Like, it looks so dumb every time, like watching, especially like stock cars, or like when we seen I saw the Mustang Challenge and like the Lamborghinis and stuff all go, it just going 5 wide into turn 1 up the hill. It's so good every time. The aerial shots of that, like, I love it. Like, you can't beat it.
Oh, it just had me nostalgic. Like, seeing the like aerial footage, and I'm like, that's where we sit.
I know. Yeah, I think the only other it was not a lot of, cautions, especially for NASCAR, and often at the road courses they have more cautions, but there was no big, major shunts or anything. The main drama was the confusion over track limits at turn 6. So SVG, he kept taking track limits very, liberally, and a lot of drivers weren't sure if there were track limit infringements for turn 6, because weren't track limits for, half the corners, only, some of them, because with NASCAR, obviously, they have a lot wider of a turning radius, so they're going to go off track most of the turns. And so a lot of the drivers were on the radio, and it was mostly just Kyle Busch, who was just complaining over the radio, check on all these people, they keep going wide in turn 6. And they're like, Kyle, you can go wide in turn 6 too. There's not track limits in turn 6. And he was very upset about it. And I was like, and then they're like, let me check on it, but I think you can do that. That's why everyone's doing that. So that was the main drama.
I fear that I must have to ask, is Kyle Busch the George Russell of NASCAR?
No.
Okay, because it sounds like it's giving that he complains about things fairly often.
No, he'll get on the radio and cuss you out to dear God. I'll send you a good Kyle Busch compilation, then he's his own.
Beautiful.
Kyle Busch is the Kyle Busch. He is no one else. He is just Kyle Busch.
I
Like
mean, I
I
did
said.
see his like post-race quote talking about Christopher Bell, where he was like, I'll give credit where credit's due. He ran me really hard and I was a complete butthead. And I'm like, this is a grown man, and his choice of words is butthead.
Like I said.
And I thought that was iconic.
He's always beefing with everyone, too.
He is nothing but consistent. And I'll leave it there.
I hate him, but I love him. Like,
he's entertaining.
Oh, yeah. And he always has been.
No, my favorite moment, like, collectively of NASCAR in recent years, not like in the history of forever, because there's been a lot of great moments. One that I have personally witnessed, though, is Ricky Stenhouse Jr. The knockout, the memes that came from the knockout still live and breathe inside my
Wait, were they
heart.
the ones that got in the fist fight?
No, I don't think it was Kyle Busch. Was it Kyle Busch? Who was it?
I have no idea. I wouldn't be surprised because Kyle Busch and Kostin Hocevar was fighting.
The person was so inconsequential. It was so good. It was so good.
I'm still playing the game of, I know Lauren's trying to figure out her new favorite driver. I'm just trying to figure out like who I actually like.
Yeah,
like,
I have to find a new
I like
one.
Kyle Larson, and then I don't know anything else besides that for the most part.
Yeah, I still haven't figured it out. I narrowed it down. I have a short list. So
it was Kyle Busch.
I'm about to say, I'm pretty sure it was Kyle Busch. I was about to say, I think it was.
It was, in fact.
Kyle Busch has beef with everyone.
Everybody.
Yeah.
And Ricky said,
he does not discriminate.
Keep your name out of my mouth. Keep my name out of your mouth.
Kyle Busch does not get Christmas cards from the entire rest of the grid.
No.
And he doesn't care.
He doesn't.
Yeah. Christopher Bell won the race. He has now won 2 races in a row because he won in Atlanta the weekend before. The final laps, like the final 10 laps of the race, were super tight between Christopher Bell, William Byron, and Tyler Reddick. I really wanted Tyler Reddick to win, mainly because Christopher Bell and William Byron have already won, and I was like, come on. And Tyler Reddick, I love him. He is like 5'2" and a ginger, and honestly hilarious. Kyle Busch had been leading most of stage 3, and I was like, this man cannot win. And he has been on a losing streak for like 39 races or something. And so I'm like, we've got to keep
years.
And I was like, we got to keep this losing streak up. So I was like, anyone but Kyle Busch. And so then his tires died and a bunch of people got past him. But Christopher Bell ended up taking the dub. So good for him. So the last little bits to kind of close out, I was just talking about some NASCAR current events that are going on. So last week, NASCAR and a couple of the drivers visited Mexico City because they are going to be having a race there this summer. It's NASCAR's first international race since 1958, so that's kind of fun. They beat Indycar to the punch. Get it together, Indycar.
Quite literally.
So it was Daniel Suarez, who is a Mexican driver in the NASCAR series, and then Christopher Bell, Chase Elliott, and Ryan Blaney all went down to Mexico City to see the track and do a bunch of press, and they participated in a bunch of fun activities. They went taco tasting, and they went to the Mexican wrestling events and stuff, and they seem to have a great time down there. So I'm very excited for that race later this season.
Are they using the same track that F1 uses or no?
Yes, that's where they're racing.
The Autodromo something or other?
Hernandez, whatever.
Yeah.
Yep.
I wonder if they eat the same tacos that everyone talks about in F1.
You know what? Forget about F1. I'm going to NASCAR in Mexico City because I want those tacos so bad. And I bet I can afford the NASCAR race, and I can't afford the Mexico race. So if anyone's in to go to Mexico City for NASCAR, I will be there. Another fun little tidbit that really only is important to me and maybe Caley is Bubba Wallace is going to throw the first pitch of the Tennessee baseball game this week, and I'm really excited about that because it's like a clash of my two worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Go Vols!
Go Vols!
Yeah, and our honorary volunteer, Julia.
I am, because I now have enough friends that have gone to UT that I feel recruited. I feel like I went there.
And you've seen the campus, you've driven around, you've been in Knoxville.
Vol means all. Vol means all.
The last little point I have, and this really brings it full circle because we talked about International Women's Month and Women in Motorsport, is Catherine Legg will be racing this weekend in NASCAR at the Phoenix Raceway in the number 78 car for the Cup Series race, which is super exciting and super awesome for her. So when I first saw the announcement, I thought she was probably running in Trucks or Xfinity, and then I actually read the post, like I should have done in the first place, and she is actually racing in the Cup Series. So that is super exciting, and I will definitely be tuning in to watch her race.
And she's not stuck in a Dale Coyne Indycar.
Yeah.
I'm hype. Racing series, we can close out the pod, but what do we have this week? Just NASCAR?
Just NASCAR.
Yeah. No WEC, or maybe we
have
WEC.
NASCAR.
No Formula E?
Nothing. I hate Formula E. It's just NASCAR this week.
Damn,
So everyone better be tuning into NASCAR because there's nothing else to watch, and you all better be cheering for Catherine Legg this Sunday at the Shriners Children's 500 at the Phoenix Raceway.
Yeah.
Because she'll be in the Drop Light 78 Chevy Camaro.
Is that they pick the longest names for races. Like, it is yes. Quite literally a mouthful every single time.
You gotta put all that product placement in. Will Buxton, he did a great job making sure he had all the product placements in his broadcast.
He had practice with Visa Cash App Racing Bulls and Kickstake Sauber F1.
But you have to plug the tires every time. You have to plug the name of the race every time. You have to plug, there's so much more product placement in NASCAR and IndyCar. So tune in to the Shriners Children's 500 at the Phoenix Raceway to watch Catherine Legg in the Drop Light 78 Chevy Camaro.
Racing
Hire
on
me, NASCAR.
blank tires.
Racing on Goodyear tires.
Honestly, iconic all the way through. For all those listening, wanted and unwanted, to our haters, the people who love us, the girlies who support us in the comments, we love you. It's been a rough one, but we're here. We persist. We triumph. We will be back again soon. You cannot keep a good woman down. These boots were in fact made for walking, and walking is what we will do. So good night. We love you. And until next time, keep watching cars because that's what we're going to do. Bye.